George Candler, your new title is Director of Commissioning. What's a Director of Commissioning then?
Director of Commissioning, the role is very much to accelerate our approach to commissioning in Shropshire. I think we're at the early stages of that, starting with a blank sheet of paper.
Okay, so what is it?
I think what we're looking to do here in Shropshire is slightly different to what's been done elsewhere in other local authorities up and down the country.
Why?
What we're looking to do is to really engage with the local community and really find out what it is that they need to really understand the demands, if you like, in those local communities. A strong focus working with our partners such as health and police, the fire service, the voluntary and community sector, the business sector, so a real sort of Shropshire PLC approach. And I think that the difference is once we've really understood where the demands are, we understand how much all of that is costing, and that will be the $64,000 question. You know, when we look at commissioning of place like we're doing in Church Stretton, and really understanding how much money is spent, not just by Shropshire Council on services in Church Stretton, but all our partners. But then once we've really understood that, we'll look to some of those high demand areas and the way that those services are delivered.
Wasn't that the job of Shropshire County Council when you first came here, then Shropshire Council, to engage with other organisations anyway? There's nothing different there.
No, I think that happened previously and happens now. I think what we've done though is we've engaged looking at Shropshire as a county, and clearly that has to happen, will continue to happen for what's right for Shropshire as a county. I think probably what we've not done as well is looking at local communities such as a Church Stretton or a Wem or a Shrewsbury. So looking at those local communities and collectively coming together to really understand how we can work better for the people. Because at the end of the day, this is about the people of Shropshire and providing services for them as efficiently as possible.
You have to choose somewhere, I appreciate that, but why choose Church Stretton to start with then? Church
Stretton, I think, represents Shropshire to a certain extent. It has a higher than average number of older people living in Shropshire, and Shropshire is predominantly, has a higher than average number of older people living in the county. I think also, though, it has a lot of strengths going for it. It's a very resilient community, and what I mean by that is a lot of people are very active there and want to get involved. And I think so we'll all be, we'll be able to work with a community that wants to engage, that wants to share their views with us. And I also think that at a local level, the town council is very strong, very focused. They're a very can-do town council, and again, I think that will be key in helping us accelerate the learning as we go forward.
Why didn't you pick a more deprived area that perhaps could have done with more help?
We had to start somewhere. Church Stretton was selected, but we will be rolling that out quite rapidly to other communities, and those other communities, I'm sure, will present different challenges along the way.
So there is a determination that this will work?
Yeah, failure is not an option.
Could happen, though.
It could happen, but I think we've got a real energy within Shropshire, amongst not just colleagues that work for Shropshire Council, but the local communities that certainly I've experienced in the time that I've been here. There's a real can-do approach in Shropshire. I think Shropshire is incredibly resilient. Like I say, lots of people give up their time free of charge to do things for their local community. So yes, there's always that niggling doubt, but I think we've got all the key building blocks in place to really make this happen.
What in your view will a commissioned community look like on the ground then?
I think a commissioned community on the ground, as far as you or I are concerned, living in that community, will look probably no different, to be honest, in the terms that the range of services that will be there for us to access. I think who delivers those services may be different, but again, generally as a customer, you don't really mind who's delivering that service on the whole, as long as you're getting something that's, if you're paying for it at an affordable price that you can afford, and is it a quality that meets your expectations. I think in terms of a community commissioned local area, there will be much more greater ownership of what goes on. So again, it won't be decisions made from on high. It will be very much owned and shaped by that local community.
What might they commission and how would they go about it?
Well, the approach that we're adopting is first of all understanding, like I say, what the needs are of that community. And the way that we're doing that is first and foremost a sort of a two-pronged approach. Is we're looking at all of the data that not only ourselves as an authority but all of our partners hold on what goes on in Church Stretton, all of the services that happen in Church Stretton and are delivered. And then we're overlaying that with how much money all of that costs. And like I said, that won't be easy, but I think it's going to be fundamental to really understand how much money is being spent in communities across Shropshire PLC, as I call it. And then really to bring that data to life is to have that strong engagement piece with the local community. So we're going to go and talk to the local community and really understand what it is that they value about their local community, what they enjoy doing. We'll also do some, again, it's called customer journey mapping, so we'll really understand the journey that a customer has from the moment they, for example, if they're going to their local GP for an appointment, we'll do a piece of work to really understand all of the different elements of that journey, who's involved, through to when their prescription is prescribed or when a particular health check needs to happen. And again, by unpicking that and really understanding all of the interventions that happen and all the different service areas that cross over on that, we'll be able to understand how this could be done differently in a more streamlined approach. And once we've done some of that prototyping, that local commissioning board will really understand how things can be done differently. They'll understand how much that potentially could cost. Because we'll have worked with the service providers that are already doing that at the moment, they'll know the marketplace that is out there that can be commissioned too. And that will make them more informed then about what genuinely needs to be commissioned, because it will be commissioned against that strong data, that strong customer engagement that's not really been done before.
What sort of timescale have you got to get this up and running? Because it sounds very complex.
So the timescale that we've set ourselves is to be commissioning ready. So what we mean by commissioning ready is we're at a point to commission some redesigned services out into the marketplace by the end of June this year. And I did say the end of June this year. So we've got about...
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, we've got about 4 months. So we're not saying that we're going to do everything in Church Stretton by the end of June. But we're looking to do a number of key areas completely differently.
Do you think that the public generally understand this? Understand what you're trying to do?
I don't think they probably do. I suppose that it will be interesting when we come to the engagement piece. If you said to a member of the public, if you asked myself as a member of the public, what services do you access from Shropshire Council, I would probably be able to rattle off quite a few because I work for Shropshire Council. Mm. But if I go and talk to some of my friends who don't work for Shropshire Council, they will probably respond with, well, what do you provide? Because most people associate local authorities with refuse collection, potholes maybe, libraries, and probably that's about it actually. Because generally, I think the public, like I said earlier, as long as people can access services, if they're paying for them at a price that they feel is affordable and a quality that meets their expectations, I don't think on the whole the public genuinely mind who delivers what out there.
If it's not broke, then why try and fix it?
Because of the changing economic climate that we've been in for a number of years now. We are in a place where we do need to look to the future. We know that there's going to be another comprehensive spending review by the government in 2015. All the soundings that are coming out from the government is that the public sector will have to play its part again in terms of the economic recovery of this country. And all of those soundings are intimating savings of 30% again. But in real terms, what that means in local government, obviously local government is just one part of the public sector, that probably equates to more towards the 50% mark. So yes, we could carry on as we've always been doing, But I think what we'd end up with is a number of services that we've been used to getting over a number of years that suddenly may start to disappear. So I think this approach ensures that we genuinely look at what's needed in a locality, but also that we're not looking at it in isolation. We're not looking at it in isolation for Shropshire Council. We're looking at it across the board with our colleagues in health and police and fire and voluntary and community sector and the business sector, so that we both share the thinking, we share resources, but we also share the opportunities as well.
What are your three priorities then in terms of locality commissioning?
Well, the three drivers for me are customer value. So, you know, what we eventually deliver has value to the customer, and you know, there's probably lots of questions around, you know, what does that mean to a customer. Another is around jobs. We're very focused on the local economy, and even though Shropshire Council will deliver less going forward, that we want to work with the voluntary and community sector, work with colleagues within the organisation, work with IP&E, and work with the marketplace that is Shropshire out there to ensure that how those services are delivered ensures as many jobs as possible are maintained in the county. So there's going to be a real focus on jobs. And I think the third for me is around that efficiency agenda, that we will need to look to make efficiencies. But I think those first two are key, really. And like I said, you know, the elected member in those local communities will be key in pulling that together, garnering those views, so that we have a really good understanding of that local community.
You will ruffle a few feathers, won't you? Because part of your definition of what locality commissioning is, assuming the mantle of local game changer. You're going to change the game. You're going to ruffle some feathers.
I wouldn't say ruffle a few feathers as such, but I do think that you're not going to please everyone all of the time. So again, I think it's ensuring that we do engage with those people, explain the rationale when we get to some key decisions. Not everyone will agree with some of those key decisions, I'm sure. But I think as long as we explain them and people have had an opportunity to comment, people have had an opportunity to get involved, then I think we'll have been far more open in that style and that approach. But yeah, I think you crack a few eggs when you make an omelette. We're making no bones that when you move quickly, now and again you may stumble, but I think, like I say, we've got the nous about us with our partners, with the way that we work with communities, the people of Shropshire themselves, that we will make this work.
And how far does this pace extend to rolling it out across the county then?
Within 18 months, I would see that predominantly commissioning on a locality approach will be the norm across Shropshire.
And how different would it have been if you hadn't done this?
I think it's difficult to predict, but all we can base it on is like I said, is in terms of what's coming out of government, in terms of, you know, comprehensive spending review in 2015. And, you know, looking to probably have to make a further 50% savings on the way that we do things. And, you know, Shropshire Council is already a very well trimmed, efficient organisation. So it would be difficult to carry on as we've been doing in the way that we've been making those efficiency savings.